Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this is the only podcast that focuses on my borough of Queens. This podcast is brought to you each week thanks to the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. Together, they present our borough as a destination with something for anyone who lives here, works here, or is visiting. As I wrap up the final episode of this podcast for 2024, I want to take a moment and reflect on what a joy it's been to spotlight the voices, the people, the places that make Queens so unique, so vibrant. Over the past year and in the years before, we've had the privilege of bringing you stories from every corner of the borough, celebrating the diversity and creativity that truly sets our borough apart. This time of year is really one of my favorites in Queens. There's a special energy in the air as we close out the year. It's the perfect time to enjoy the borough's incredible arts and cultural offerings. Whether you're hosting an out-of-town family that's visiting or just looking for inspiration close to home, I really encourage you to check out some of our local gems. Take them to places like the Museum of the Moving Image or the Queens Museum or Queens Theater. Queens always has something happening, and these venues can turn a simple outing into an unforgettable experience. There's always a new exhibit, always a new event or a performance that you can discover. And of course, we're always going to be here at the It's in Queens podcast to keep you informed and inspired. So for this week's final installment of the year, I'm excited to feature the Jamaica Center for Arts and Learning, which is also known as JCAL. It's a cornerstone of the art scene in Southeast Queens, fostering creativity and providing a platform for artists and audiences alike. Courtney Ffrench is the artistic director of JCAL. He's a proud alumnus of Queens College who brings a lifetime of artistic and professional experience to his role. I recently caught up with Courtney to discuss JCAL's incredible programming and its impact on the Queens community. Let's have a listen to that conversation. Courtney Ffrench, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thanks, Jeff. Glad to be here.
It's great to have you back on the podcast. It is the holiday season, so let us get an update on JCAL and what you've been up to. Give us our It's in Queens listeners an update on some of the exciting events and programs that JCAL has planned for the rest of the year.
Wow, I can't believe it's the rest of the year. It feels like we have like 2 weeks or so for the rest of the year, at least for most of us, because we're going on vacation, right? During the whole Christmas break and so on. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about what's happening here, at least in December, right? For music lovers, as you know, we have a feature music series called Thursday Night Jazz, right? And it's been happening now for at least 5 years. It started out in our small theater in our 99-seat theater, but it grew so much now it's over at JPAC, which is a bigger space. It seats up to 400 persons and so on. And so this December on the 12th, we have Melissa Aldana, who's a Grammy, not a, you see, a nominee. She's a Grammy nominee. She's actually an alumni. She's played at JPAC a few times before, and she's coming here. We're very excited about that. As a matter of fact, our RSVPs are almost halfway there, so I suspect it's going to be a crowded afternoon. So if you're thinking about coming, you too, Jeff, if you're thinking about coming and listening to some jazz, you might want to get on the RSVP list and save yourself some seats. So Melissa is coming. That's going to be fun. On the visual arts side, we have an exhibit now called Trickle Down Decadence, right? Screams of Hope. It's a specific kind of exhibition about gun prevention violence. And it's very powerful, very, very, very meaningful. It's curated by Wanda Best. And that's going to be up until December 14th. On December 14th, you're going to have a closing reception. We're like a beginning and an end. We love beginnings and ends, right? So we have a closing reception, and that closing reception is, of course, December 14th. And you're going to feature some dancing, some spoken word, along with the artwork that is on the wall. So it's interactive, it's engaging, it's purposeful, it's community oriented, and I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for us at the end of the year in our visual arts thing. And then the last thing we're doing in 2024 is our theater production of Meet the Playwright. And it's Meet the Playwright is sort of I don't know how, we've spoken about this before, but Meet the Playwright is sort of an engine that looks for new and upcoming playwrights people who have never been produced before, probably never, at least never been produced in Queens before, and it's sort of like a semi-staged reading of a play. Uh, it happens at JCal, usually crowded. Again, something if you want to attend, you should definitely make reservations because at 99 seats, we often find ourselves adding little chairs and people standing in the back. So you should come and see it. This last production is called Pansy Craze, and uh, the best way I can describe it, if you think of it's ballroom culture in the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
Ballroom culture, and ballroom culture here in New York means it's a LGBTQ kind of voguing and underground dance, pretty much the same thing, but in 1920.
Wow.
Right? And of course, it's about a young man, young impoverished man who falls in love with an affluent gentleman. Of course, tragedy hits their lives and everything gets turned upside down. So it should be very exciting, very engaging, and eye-opening too, that in 1920, there was a ballroom, underground ballroom scene in New York City. So, it should be fun all around. So those are
That
the things
sounds
that,
That
yeah.
sounds fantastic. Of course, we're not going to go through all 2025, but I'd love to know as we look ahead to 2025 for anyone who's starting to make plans. I want people to mark their calendars when they hear this segment. What are some of the key initiatives or programs that you're most excited about that are on the horizon?
Well, part of one of our key initiatives has been the development of what we call the Visual Voices program. And Visual Voices is primarily visual arts, right? It's visual arts, and it engages several curators over the course of a year to bring a different vision each time. Well, not as a vision, but a different perspective on visual arts and what it's about in terms of styles and the mixing of media and so on. So what is happening is we have found ourselves curating not just wall space here at JCal in our two exhibit space, which is the Miller Gallery and the Community Gallery, but we're now been tasked with, sort of prettying up the walls of the Nexus, which belongs to Greater Jamaica Development Corporation, and also the red wall at Resorts World NYC. So when an artist comes to JCal and gets an exhibit on our wall, generally when you have those exhibits, they go away and die somewhere. We don't, we're fighting against that. So we've had now other walls that when it leaves JCal, it goes on the walls of the workspace at Nexus, right? Or it goes on the wall space at Resorts World NYC. And so it's a kind of we're building a kind of a consortium of places that we lend our expertise, and our artists gets more exposure now based on the fact that we have multiple places that we can then show our wares.
And I love this idea because I work with a lot of arts and cultural organizations. And when I'll hear from someone who says, "Oh, I missed that. I wish I could have still seen it."
Mhm.
Now you're able to say, "Well, you still can," which is
Right.
wonderful. Now, Courtney, you used the word vision before. That leads me to another question because JCal has long been a cornerstone of arts and culture in Queens. So what's your vision for the organization in the coming years?
Um, well, I like to use the word hub. I don't know if you've ever, well, I'm sure you've seen a bus, like let's say Port Authority, right? All these buses coming into Port Authority and they're all hovering in and coming out and hovering in and coming out. Well, I look at my vision really is to have JCal be positioned as a kind of a hub for artists and non-artists. A hub for artists who want to who are looking for a place to grow their art, for a place to get information about opportunities, right? Because that's the thing, information about where grants are, what the grantees are looking for, when the grants when grants become available for work, that kind of a thing. And also to have to provide space, a space where artists can come and, prep themselves. We have several art spaces on our third floor with tables and places where people can, if you feel like drawing, creating some sort of pottery or whatever the case like that might be, we have that space, and we want artists to know that we have that space and come in. You know what I mean? It's not one of the most challenging things for an artist. I used to be a dance girl. Well, I still am, but I'm old now, so I don't dance as
You,
much anymore.
our listeners
Yeah.
can't see you, but you don't look that old.
Well, my body tells me like says things like, "What are you doing? I don't think we can do that." You know. So, but one of the most valuable things for artists is space. Space is premium. And if you ever try to rent some space like, Harlequin Studios in Manhattan, they're talking $80, $90 just for 2 hours or something like that. And I think that's a challenge. That's a challenge for someone who's barely making it, off their art. You just can't afford it. You can't afford to be in there 4 nights a week at $45 an hour. So we're engaged in programs where we offer spaces for about $10. $10 an hour. Whereas if you go someplace else, you're paying 60 or $50 per hour. So we think that's a wonderful way of engaging the community and to sort of pull people into our bus depot, into our hub. And I think that's one of the key visions that we have to sort of help artists. Now, on the other side, the community itself, um, we want to have people come here to see plays, dance, artwork without having to feel as if they need to drive into Manhattan to take that subway 45-minute hour ride on the subway when you can come and see Fences in our theater, or you can see hip hop Shakespeare, or or West African dance, focus on Dundumba, or whatever the case might be. So that is my vision, to sort of have this place where people just say, you know what, I want to go see dance tonight. Let's go down to JCal. I want to see visuals. Let's go to JCal.
And you use the word community. That brings me to another question about how the multiple ways you engage with the local community, and if there are any new ways you're planning to increase those engagements and deepen those connections in the coming period.
I think we're deepening our connections by offering a membership program, where you get, if you're an artist, you're privy to early information about government grants or private funding. Um, we're diving deeper by offering classes on how to apply for grants, um, offering classes to artists on how to make them turn themselves into a business, how to file your taxes, and how to save, so that when time comes to retire, you're not wondering, gee, maybe I should have become that accountant, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case might be. I think that all of those things are important. Um, we want to make ourselves more available to community and children. Um, uh, we create free family events. One such thing is our International Children's Festival. And by international, what it means is, if you come to this is happening May 17th. And actually, we usually have it on the lawns at JPAC, but this year we intend on having it diagonally across the street at the Rufus King Park, right? Um, and this is free, where we have games for children, including hula hoop, miniature golf. We have fun foods like cotton candy, ice cream, that sort of a thing. We have a bouncy house. We have performers doing, with international favorite Chinese acrobats, Latin flavor music, Caribbean dancing. It creates this complete international flavor based on the population that comes in Queens. I mean, rumor has it that there's over 150 languages spoken in Queens based on the diversity that there is, right? And Queens just seems like, almost like the gateway to the world. A lot of people coming in and just stay right here in Queens. They stay with a family member and then they move out. They come and stay in a family member. You're in a two-bedroom apartment, and they come and they get a job, and and so forth, and move on out to the outer boroughs and so on. So that's one of the things that we're doing to sort of
And you
build
mentioned
deeper engagements.
And you mentioned grants. I'm curious because a lot of the nonprofits and organizations I work with are often faced with challenges, particularly, because of different, funding priorities that people have. I'd
Mhm.
love for you to talk a little about, since it is the giving season, why it's important for people to share some love with JCal to help overcome any challenges that you might be facing, or we could just focus on, the importance of supporting an organization like JCal.
Well, funding, funding is always a challenge for nonprofit institutions, but even more so for nonprofit institutions that are in underserved areas. That is a fact, right? And so we have to sort of straddle the line between getting private funding and public funding, where if you're getting public funding and there's a change in the philosophy of the public funder, if they get a call or there's a slight recession or whatever the case might be, the institutions in underserved areas feel it a lot more. Where we're not just cutting, a couple hours here, a couple there. We're talking about losing entire programs, losing theater program or getting rid of the music program. So it is vital. And as we know, art is a vital thing in our lives to think about. You think about music, hearing music, right? Or getting visual stimulations based on looking at a painting of a mother and her child, or whatever the case might be, or coming to hear Melissa Aldana play. These are nourishments to the soul. These are things that, besides, working, 15 hours a day and taking care of your children or going to school, or all of those things, these are the things that keep us sane, that makes us not want to scream. And I think us as an institution, it is our duty to reach out to the community and let them know that, yes, we need your help. We need you to buy into something that is for you, that is for this community. Because again, whereas, you'll find people needing to drive or travel an hour and a half into the city to get some nourishment, it is important that you have something, that you take care of what's in your backyard. It's important that you take care of institution that put the community first, that will put things on the stage that you can see yourself into, which is important. Kind of like when you go to public schools around here, or whatever the case might be. Children are more apt to learn when they see themselves in the people that are in front of them, teaching them what to do. And it's the same thing for the public at large. I think it's nourishing when you can find an institution that caters to the historic, emotional, cultural values of that particular community. And I think that's why it's important for people to give to an institution like JCal.
And in addition to giving, it's important to celebrate this time of year. So let's get to a little personal note here. How are you going to be celebrating the holidays this year? Any specific traditions you plan to share?
Well, specific traditions. I have children, so I have to have a plan for Christmas. My wife and I, we have a tradition where we have a tree set up in the morning. But I think this year is going to be different because, she's a nurse, and sometimes nurses can't afford to be where they need to be. It just happens to be that way. But this year, I mean, something special for me this year, which is going to be a shameless plug, is that I have my second book that is coming out the end of this year. There's going to be an opening night in January. It's a book. It's entitled Kundu, and hopefully I'll come back and talk more about it. But
So,
yeah,
so I'm not going to ask any more questions about that now, so I can have you come back then when the book comes out. Or I was about
book
to
comes
jump in
out.
with more questions, but I'll hold them
Comes
off
out.
for your return engagement in 2025.
Book comes out. So that's happening for me personally. I'm very excited about it, very
And
excited
be
about it.
and Courtney, before I let you go, please then let our listeners know where they can go if they want to learn more about JCal, get involved, attend any of the events on December 12th, 14th, or 19th. Would love for them to know more about the amazing work that JCal is doing.
Well, fortunately, it's fairly easy. You just go to jcal.org, jcal.org, And once you're there, you can navigate to all our events. You'll see what's coming up throughout the year. As a matter of fact, you can sign up to get our newsletter, which comes when we have a newsletter that comes out every week that gives you a breakdown of what's happening throughout the month. The website will give you information about things happening about 4 months, 4 months into the year. So yeah, jcal.org, jcal.org, and you can find all the information there. You could find out more about what I'm working on directly. You'll also get a chance to donate if you can. It doesn't. No amount is too small. No amount is too small. We appreciate any help that you can get. We can get. And if you have production ideas, here's something. If you have production ideas about plays or some kind of fun event or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to me personally. I can be reached at Ffrench, but French with two F's because my parents decided to let me stand out. So it's CFFRENCH at jcal.org. That's Ffrench, CFFRENCH at jcal.org. I am more than happy to hear your proposal and see what collaborations exist.
And I was going to wrap up, but I do need to throw out another question at you now, given what you just said.
Uh-huh.
How many times a day does someone spell your name incorrectly?
I can't count. I used to be a middle school teacher at IS8. So, with middle schoolers, they have jokes. I mean, just tons and tons. Did your father stutter? Does the F stands for fa 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 fa? Do you roll your tongue? But by now I've heard them all, but they're all fun. So please feel free to have fun with it.
Well, I know how to spell your last name. Courtney Ffrench, I want to thank you so much for appearing here on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. See you soon.
What an inspiring conversation with Courtney Ffrench. JCal truly embodies the spirit of Queens, offering an incredible range of programming that speaks to every age, every interest, and every artistic taste. And once again, if you want to learn more about its programming and events, well, head right over to jcal.org. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Queens is better off because of JCal, and we're lucky to have it as part of our community. Now, if you're looking for something else to do this month or next, well, we always have you covered here at the It's in Queens podcast. That's where Rob Mackay comes in because he's with the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. And each and every week, Rob highlights some of the more exciting events that are happening in Queens. Here's this week's report.
Howdy, Jeff. We got something really interesting brewing here in Queens. I'm sure you and everybody else knows about the classic 1946 movie or Christmas movie, It's a Wonderful Life, right? James Stewart plays George Bailey, and Clarence Oddbody is his guardian angel. Anyway, Queens Theater is about to host a radio play version of this movie from December 13th to December 22nd. So yes, a radio play, just like they did in the 1940s when this movie came out. It's a production by Titan Theater Company, which is both Queens-based in terms of its organization and the artist in residence at Queens Theater. So it's kind of it's a different way. We've all seen Ebenezer Scrooge and whatnot. Here you can actually check out a little different, something that's still in the inspirational Christmas genre. There are 5 shows at 7:30 and 2 at 3 p.m. I think it's going to be great. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Rob. That's just a sample of all that's happening in our borough. And remember, the place to go to explore everything that's on the horizon is very easy to remember. It's at the It's in Queens website at itsinqueens.com. And if you're interested in more business news, how to help your business or a friend's, well then head right over to the QEDC's website at queensny.org. Now, Courtney mentioned their e-newsletter, so we're going to mention ours. When you visit either of these websites, the It's in Queens website or QEDC's website, sign up for their newsletters too. That way, you'll get notified right in your inbox. And when you visit any place in Queens this month, snap a photo or two and share them with us. Make sure to use the hashtag #It'sInQueens because your photo could become our photo of the week. Now, while this is my last episode of the year, don't worry, I'll be back in 2025 with more stories and features about the borough and the people that we know and that we love. Until then, I hope you'll continue exploring everything that Queens has to offer. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's It's in Queens podcast. Happy holidays.